Before 2006, building and running technology was a rigid, logistical nightmare. If you wanted to launch an application, you couldn't just write code. You first had to become a hardware manager. You had to predict your company's server needs for the next few years, purchase all that physical equipment, install it on site in a protected data room, and overbuild capacity just in case of a traffic spike. This meant substantial, risky, upfront capital expenditures, long procurement cycles, and inflexible scaling. The result was technology defined by sunk costs and months of waiting for hardware to arrive. Then, Amazon Web Services turned that entire model on its head.
One of the things is the Amazon Web Services business. And there's a business that's growing, it's in a hyper-growth phase. It's already a significant business. The best analogy I can give you for this is it's like the electric grid. So instead of, right now, big companies build their own data centers and they buy their own servers and they put it in. It's a lot of CapEx. There's a lot of price of admission. If you're going to operate a data center, you have to do it well. But it doesn't differentiate you from your competitors. It's just a price of admission. And so what we do at Amazon Web Services is we sell compute by the hour. We sell compute by the drink. And it's just like buying electricity off the grid instead of having your own power manufacturing, your own power generating plant.
Instead of buying a server, you could rent one by the hour. Instead of building and maintaining a database, you could access one through a simple API. It turned computing into a utility, as simple as plugging into an electrical grid. You paid only for what you used, and you never had to worry about the power plant. This wasn't just an improvement, it was a revolution. And for over a decade, AWS was its undisputed compute engine, the foundational platform on which a generation of modern technology was built. But in late 2022, a technological shockwave threw that entire leadership narrative into question. The explosive growth of generative AI created a demand for a fundamentally different kind of infrastructure. Not the flexible, general-purpose cloud AWS had perfected, but hyper-specialized supercomputers built for the brute force task of training massive AI models. This technological reset created a new starting line. It allowed competitors like Microsoft, through its partnership with OpenAI, and Google, with its deep AI research, to frame the new battleground on their own terms. The effect of this reset is now clearly visible in the financial data. Amazon's rivals are now expanding at a much faster rate. As this chart shows, for the past several quarters, both Microsoft and Google have been growing their cloud segments at nearly double the rate of AWS. A surge they both credit directly to AI. This sustained divergence is the clearest evidence of a market shift. While AWS is still growing, its competitors are capturing a disproportionate share of the new high-value AI workloads. So, how did the pioneer of the cloud find itself defending its position in the age of AI? And what is its strategy to reassert its leadership? To answer this, we'll first deconstruct the foundational moats that gave AWS its long-standing market power. Then, we'll analyze how the AI paradigm shift has altered the competitive landscape and created new pressures. Finally, we will examine how AWS is executing on its core strategies in the AI era to see whether its edge remains intact. Let's unpack this. To understand the challenge Amazon now faces, we must first look at the competitive advantages that secured its market leadership. Its position is defended by three interlocking and self-reinforcing moats, built over nearly 2 decades of operation. The first moat is Amazon's global scale, a direct result of its first-mover advantage. Its infrastructure spans 34 geographic regions and 108 availability zones, a footprint that generates immense economies of scale. This scale is managed by Amazon's organizational expertise in designing, building, and operating a massive global network. This allows AWS to operate with a lower cost per unit, a structural advantage that funds further expansion and competitive pricing. For customers, this translates into a proven track record of scalability and reliability. This physical footprint is reinforced by a deep digital ecosystem designed to create high switching costs. The most obvious layer is the product portfolio of over 200 services, applications built to leverage AWS's proprietary higher-level services, such as AWS Lambda for serverless compute or Amazon SageMaker for machine learning, are not directly portable. Migrating them requires significant application re-architecting, developer effort, and personnel retraining. This is compounded by what is known as data gravity, as customers consolidate their most valuable asset, their data, within core services like Amazon S3. The cost and complexity of moving those petabytes of data to a competitor becomes a powerful deterrent. This ecosystem is further extended by the AWS Partner Network and the AWS Marketplace, which simplify procurement and embed AWS even more deeply into a customer's operational fabric. Finally, these technical moats are solidified by a powerful non-technical advantage: enterprise trust. Over more than 15 years, AWS has cultivated this trust by building a brand synonymous with market leadership and reliability, consistently validated by influential analyst firms like Gartner. For enterprise decision-makers, this trust acts as a cognitive shortcut, reducing the perceived risk of a purchasing decision. Choosing AWS is often seen as the safe, standard option, which lowers the career risk for the CIOs and IT managers who make these multi-million-dollar commitments. This trust is further cultivated by consultative arms like AWS Professional Services, which de-risk complex migrations and, in doing so, deepen a customer's dependency on the platform. These moats do not operate in isolation. The revenue from scale funds the R&D for the ecosystem, and the entrenchment from the ecosystem builds the track record that earns enterprise trust. This powerful combination is the foundation of AWS's long-standing market position. By the way, deconstructing the architecture of a tech company's business model, not just its products, is the core of what we do in our weekly newsletter, ARPU. If you want to get this level of insight delivered to your inbox every week, you can find the link right at the top of the description. For years, the competitive landscape of the cloud was stable. AWS's primary rivals occupied distinct and secondary market positions. But the industry-wide pivot to AI created a new starting line that exposed a vulnerability for AWS and allowed its competitors to capitalize. At the moment of the AI explosion, Amazon lacked a compelling AI narrative. Its strength was its comprehensive, general-purpose platform, a vast digital supermarket with over 200 services. But the new demand was for something different: hyper-specialized supercomputers, engineered for the brute force task of training massive models. This mismatch, combined with a cultural reluctance to partner with emerging AI leaders, left Amazon in a narrative vacuum. It was in this opening that its rivals effectively reframed the market on their own terms. Microsoft's strategy was a narrative coup. It leveraged its existing enterprise dominance by pairing it with an exclusive partnership with OpenAI. For the thousands of CIOs already running on the Microsoft stack, this provided a simple, powerful value proposition: immediate, secure access to OpenAI's latest models directly within the trusted Azure environment. This positioned Azure as the safest and fastest path for large enterprises to adopt cutting-edge AI, allowing Microsoft to convert its existing relationships into accelerated cloud growth. Google Cloud, meanwhile, saw the AI boom transform its technical niche into the new center of the market. Its historical strengths in AI research, data analytics with BigQuery, and custom silicon with TPUs were suddenly top-level priorities for every CIO. GCP could offer a full-stack advantage, from the chip to the integrated Vertex AI platform, positioning itself as the superior destination for building the next generation of AI-native applications. And Google's technical credibility has now translated into a landmark contract win that illustrates the threat to AWS. In October 2025, it was announced that Google had secured a deal with Anthropic to supply up to 1 million of its custom TPUs, an arrangement worth tens of billions of dollars. The implication of this deal is profound. Amazon is Anthropic's largest investor and has publicly positioned the startup as its centerpiece of AI strategy. Yet this Google-Anthropic deal signals that a marquee AI player is actively diversifying its infrastructure and placing a massive, long-term bet on a competitor's custom silicon. It is the clearest evidence yet that GCP's AI-native strategy is successfully capturing the highest value workloads in the new market, creating tangible pressure on Amazon's market position. AWS's business model is also challenged by the emergence of new market pressures. The first pressure comes from a new category of competitor, the neocloud. These are specialized providers hyper-focused on delivering GPU as a service for the most demanding AI workloads. Instead of replicating AWS's vast service catalog, their strategy is to build purpose-built AI factories, optimized for a single task, running massive AI training and inference jobs with maximum efficiency. This focus allows neocloud providers to potentially offer better performance and cost than a general-purpose provider. The most well-known example is CoreWeave, which has leveraged more than $13 billion in funding to secure large allocations of high-end NVIDIA GPUs. The core of this threat is revealed in internal AWS documents obtained and reported by Business Insider, which warn that AI startups are now delaying AWS cloud adoption and diverting spending toward AI models, inference, and AI developer tools. This represents a fundamental inversion of Amazon's historical growth model. And this fragmentation of the AI infrastructure market isn't limited to startups. Even established players are capturing significant AI contracts, with Oracle securing a massive future infrastructure deal with OpenAI, further demonstrating that Amazon is no longer the only viable option for large-scale AI. The second pressure comes from the maturation of the open-source AI ecosystem. This movement attacks the core logic of AWS's platform strategy. With Amazon Bedrock, AWS has positioned itself as an indispensable intermediary, a model-agnostic marketplace where the value lies in the platform, not the specific model. This is a bet that AI models fade in importance and become commoditized building blocks. However, the rise of platforms like Hugging Face, which hosts millions of open-weight models, challenges this assumption. If open-source models achieve commercial-grade capabilities while remaining freely accessible, the value of a managed model marketplace diminishes. While AWS has integrated Hugging Face into its own services, the open nature of the ecosystem makes model access platform-agnostic, fundamentally reducing vendor lock-in. This threat is tempered by security concerns. Malicious code has been found in some open-source models, which could drive risk-averse enterprises back toward managed platforms. Nonetheless, it represents a long-term strategic risk to AWS's platform-centric business model. To fight this new war, Amazon is calling on every resource in its corporate arsenal. The company is now leveraging its core strengths in finance and engineering to fortify its position. First, the company is undertaking a massive expansion of its physical infrastructure, with a capital expenditure plan approaching $125 billion for 2025 alone. This is a direct response to the brute force demands of the AI market, a strategy designed to ensure AWS cannot be outscaled. As CEO Andy Jassy has stated, the company is seeing strong demand, and as fast as they are adding capacity, they are monetizing it. Second, the company is deepening its investment in custom silicon. This includes the Trainium chip for AI training and Inferentia for inference. This vertical integration is a long-term strategy to control the cost-performance equation for AI workloads and reduce dependency on third-party suppliers. The company now describes its Trainium business as a multi-billion-dollar segment that grew 150% quarter over quarter, driven by landmark projects like Project Rainier, the supercomputing cluster built to train Anthropic's models. Finally, Amazon is attempting to address its internal execution challenges. In October 2025, the company announced it was cutting 14,000 corporate roles. Jassy framed this not as a purely financial move, but as a cultural one, an effort to address pandemic-era overstaffing and reduce management layers to become more agile. This is a direct acknowledgement of the bureaucratic inertia that has reportedly slowed its innovation velocity. And an example of this new strategy now bearing fruit is the recent landmark deal with OpenAI. In November 2025, Amazon announced a 7-year, $38 billion contract for OpenAI to use AWS infrastructure for model training and processing ChatGPT queries. The implication of this deal is twofold. On one hand, it demonstrates that AWS's core infrastructure is competitive enough to win business from the world's most important AI company, even one deeply partnered with Microsoft. On the other hand, the context of the deal is critical. As noted by the Wall Street Journal, the $38 billion commitment is tiny compared to OpenAI's agreements with Oracle and Microsoft. This reflects OpenAI's broader strategy of a deal-making spree to secure massive computing capacity from multiple providers. This win, therefore, perfectly encapsulates AWS's current position. It is no longer being shut out of the most critical AI infrastructure deals, but it is now one of several major suppliers in a fiercely competitive market, fighting for its share rather than commanding it. These moves are also starting to impact the financials. A 20% growth rate in the third quarter is the evidence that AWS might be turning the tide. However, a single quarter of strong financial performance does not win a narrative war. The fundamental question is whether Amazon is simply monetizing the overall market's AI-driven expansion, or if it is truly recapturing the mindshare and the high-value workloads it lost to its rivals. The takeaway is clear. While Amazon has proven its business model is resilient, it has not yet proven it can dominate the AI compute market. So, how will we know if AWS is successfully navigating this new landscape and reasserting its leadership? Here are the 4 key signals to monitor. First, track the growth velocity gap. In quarterly earnings reports, is AWS's revenue growth rate beginning to close the gap with Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud? This is the most direct indicator of whether it is successfully defending its market share. Second, watch the AI workload market. Are there public announcements of AWS winning new, large-scale AI training and inference contracts from major AI companies? This will be the clearest sign of whether it is recapturing the narrative in the industry's most critical segment. Third, monitor the adoption of its custom silicon. Is there evidence of broad market adoption for its Trainium and Inferentia chips beyond the flagship Anthropic partnership? This will be the key proof point for whether its vertical integration strategy is creating a durable competitive advantage. And finally, track its innovation cadence. Is AWS increasing the velocity of its significant, high-level AI service launches? This is the most tangible measure of whether its internal restructuring is successfully addressing the bureaucratic inertia that allowed rivals to gain the upper hand. This kind of thinking, tracking these strategic metrics, is the core of understanding the business of tech. It's what we do every week in our free newsletter, ARPU. And for operators who need this analysis tailored to their specific role and competitors, we build the bespoke intelligence stream. You can find the link to both at the top of the description. Thanks for watching.